Hello, good evening, everybody. How are you? I'm going to get into the chat here. So please be sure to hit the like button when you come in. I'd appreciate it. How's everybody doing? We're going to give it just a few minutes to let people come in. I'm going to bring the attorney up now. All right. Hi.
Hi.
You're on.
Okay.
All right. So we're live now. And I usually just give it a few minutes to let people, kind of start to roll in. And I just have a real small channel. I don't usually have a big crowd, but, it's okay. So we'll just let it play for a minute here. As you come in, if you can let me know that you're here, I'd appreciate it. Hi, Lynn. How are you doing? Hi, Kim. Hi, how are you? All right. So we got a couple of people in chat now, Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll start to roll in here. So we'll just go ahead and start because people, I get a lot of views on my replays on my channel. So
okay.
Go ahead and start. Let me go ahead and start because people, there we go. I got my chat up. Shut this one off. There we go. All right, so we have with us this evening, this is Glenn Graham. He is a criminal defense attorney with over 30 years of experience. I've known him since, 92?
Yes.
Yeah, he was 92, 91, something like that when we met, so long time. And he's got a really great track record. Hopefully he's getting to the point where he's going to retire and take it easy. So everybody say hi to Glenn, and I'll add his contact information so that if anybody needs help in criminal defense, this is your guy if you're in Oklahoma for sure. So hi, Lynn, welcome.
Hi, Debbie.
All right, and how are you doing tonight, Glenn?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Just finished working out at the gym.
Cool. All right. So I sent Glenn. Kim says hi to you.
Okay.
Are you able to see the chat?
Let's see.
I think you're
No,
doing
I
this on
don't.
your phone, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Well, if I see any questions for you, you guys are welcome to ask him any questions about the case or anything that you'd like. And if I see him, I will let him know. So, all right.
If I tap on chat, am I gonna lose you, or?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll try it. Whoops, I tapped on it. I don't know. Did I disappear when I tapped on chat?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, you were
Okay.
still here. I remember my first time I used StreamYard. It was crazy. I didn't know what to click on. It's easier if you're doing this on a computer, of course, but you don't have to.
Okay. All right. I see it now.
Okay. So they're saying hi to you.
Okay.
All right. So after looking at the PCA, which is the probable cause affidavit, and the Delphi case against Richard Allen, a few things stuck out to me just as a layperson. I mean, I've been around attorneys forever, and I worked at a law firm for years, and so, I'm familiar with some of the language that they use. And when I heard just a couple of words in there, one was subjective and open to interpretation. Anybody knows that one. There were a couple other things in there. There were a couple of clerical errors within the document. And so we'll just go through it, and hopefully you can explain. I know most people are presenting this as kind of a slam dunk case against him, and they're all prosecution side. I'd like to present what would happen, like if you were Richard Allen's attorney and he was innocent, maybe not. Hi, Titanium. So kind of take it from that perspective, like how you would handle the case if this was your person. Right. So I'm going to pull up the file here so we can go over it. This way. Okay, had to wipe my nose. Got allergies tonight. Okay, so we have add this here. Now I'll pull up the file. All right, you should be able to see it now. All right, can you see it on the screen now? It's going to be kind of tricky with you being on a phone, but we'll make it work. Uh-oh. He yeeted himself. Hi, Titanium. Give him a minute and he'll figure it out. This is his first time using StreamYard, so there he is. There you are. You yeeted yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, I see it on the screen.
Okay. All right. So again, if you're just joining, this is Glenn Graham. He's just chilling at home, but he is a 30-plus year experienced criminal defense attorney. And I want to bring bring some of these things up that I noticed and I brought to him, and he agreed to come up and explain this from the defense point of view on the case, what we can expect from the defense. So I think that that's very valuable. I know a lot of people are, talking about this just from the prosecution standpoint, but it's really important to see where the defense is going to come at this case. All right, so this is just the probable cause affidavit that we're talking about right now. This is the sworn affidavit. This comes from the DA, right? The DA signs this. Is that who? I think I'm moving things around.
The detective usually writes out the affidavit. The detective, well, it's I'll go down to.
Are you able to read it? Do you have a laptop, maybe?
Yeah, I'm looking on the laptop now.
Okay.
Usually,
Lynn,
on these
Indiana has one. Lynn in chat's asking if Indiana only uses one license plate, and I believe so. I believe theirs are only on the back, and we're going to come to that point in here where it talks about the way he parked at the building, or way the person parked at the building, in a manner that they believe was designed to not show the license plate. Hi, Bebop. How are you? We're just getting started, so hopefully some more will come in here with us, but I never care about that. If you hit the like button for me, that would help. If you have a channel, let me know what your channel is so I can include you in the description and put out your link for you. If you would share my live on your community page, that would be cool, or your Facebook or whatever, Twitter, just to help me a little bit. Okay, so this is the beginning here. States that on February 14th, 2017, victim 1 and victim 2 were found deceased in the woods, approximately 0.2 miles northeast of the Monon High Bridge in Carroll County. Their bodies were located on the north side of the Deer Creek. At the time, the Monon High Bridge Trail was approximately 1 mile gravel trail terminating at the Monon High Bridge. The Monon High Bridge is an abandoned railroad, approximately a quarter mile long, spanning the Deer Creek and Deer Creek Valley on the southeast end of the trail. I don't think I need to read all the super descriptive stuff here. Right. Hang on. Because everybody can read that. And if you need this file, I can put up the link for anybody in chat who wants a copy of this or anything. This one. Through interviews, reviews of electronic records, and review of video at the Hoosier Harvest Store, investigators believe that victim 1 and victim 2 were dropped off across from the Mears farm at 1:49 p.m. on February 13th by, and I think we already know it was their one of their parents. The Mears farm is located on the north side of County Road 300. A video from victim 2's phone shows that at 2:13 p.m., victim 1 and victim 2 encountered a male subject on the southeast portion of Monon High Bridge. The male ordered guys down the hill. No witnesses saw them after this time. No outgoing communications were found on victim 2's phone after this time. And their bodies were discovered the next day on February 14th, 2017. So they recovered a video from her phone. It showed them walking on the bridge while a male wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. As the male subject approaches them, one of the girls in the little video, there's a 43-second video. She says the word gun. She mentions gun. And then near the end of the video, the male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys, down the hill. The girls then begin to proceed down the hill and the video ends. Gosh, it is just such an awful thought, you know? All right, so the deaths were ruled as homicide, and their clothing was found in Deer Creek, south of where the bodies were located. There was a 40 caliber unspent round less than 2 feet away from victim two's body, between victim one and victim two's bodies. And this is where it can either be proof that it's him, or it could be nothing. It could literally be a big nothing burger, that unspent bullet. Even if it did come from his gun, and this is where I would like for you to jump in, or I'm going to skip down to one section that I highlighted
Right.
as background.
It's on page 6 at the top.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
That's it.
So I'm going to start right about here. Between October 14th and October 19th, the Indiana State Police Laboratory performed an analysis on Allen's Sig Sauer Model P226. The laboratory performed a physical examination. I swear I can't read out loud, same on left. And classification of the firearm, function test, barrel and overall length measurement, test firing, ammunition component characterization, microscopic comparison, and NIBIN. The laboratory determined, it's spelled laboratory on here, so it looks like it for me. They determined that the unspent round located within 2 feet of victim two's body had been cycled through Richard M. Allen's Sig Sauer Model P226. Now they included a little portion, and I think this is real important. The laboratory remarked, an identification opinion is reached when the evidence exhibits an agreement of class characteristics and a sufficient agreement of individual marks. Sufficient agreement is related to the significant duplication of random striated / impression marks as evidenced by the correspondence of a pattern or combination of patterns of surface contours. The interpretation of identification is subjective in nature and based on relevant scientific research and the reporting examiner's training and experience. That right there, that last sentence, what do you make of that? If this is your client and you see that, what do you think?
Well, that it's subjective in nature, and that subjective in nature would indicate to me that you're going to get two expert witnesses that are going to disagree. So the defense is going to hire an expert witness who's going to look at that and going to look at the evidence, and then it would depend upon how much magnification they did on that, on the casing. It's an unspent casing. So it's not a casing that was actually, it's not a bullet that was fired, but was ejected from the firearm. So it's an ejection mark and not an actual, it wasn't fired. It's unspent, meaning it was ejected from the firearm. So you're going to have a battle of expert witnesses. You're going to have one expert that may say, well, it's 90% certainty, and another expert's going to say, well, it's a 60% certainty, and you're going to have a battle of experts. And when you get into that, you'll get into it's what they call circumstantial evidence. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's circumstantial evidence. And then you also get into reliability questions, meaning could you have another firearm that could eject a bullet that would have similar marks on it? Is that possible? And if that's possible, then you don't have 100% reliability. And it's subjective, meaning it depends upon the interpretation and how much magnification they did on that. So there's been cases out there where somebody was convicted based upon dental evidence. A guy was convicted in 1983 based upon bite marks, based upon a dentist getting up there and saying, oh, he's absolutely guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This bite mark shows clearly that it was this person that did it. And his dental marks are clear and convincing. It's 100% certainty that this guy bit this person and he's guilty. And so that guy did 30 years. He did 33 years in prison. And then DNA evidence comes back and shows that it wasn't him. In fact, it was somebody else who went out and committed other crimes and then died in prison. And so we've even had this here in Oklahoma, where somebody gets convicted based upon identification or misidentification, and then DNA evidence comes back and shows it wasn't him that did it, and it was some other guy who did it. And so when you don't have DNA evidence and what you have is a subjective identification, that you have an identification that's subjective in nature, well, that means some guy could do 30 years or 33 years in prison. And then if DNA evidence comes back and shows it wasn't him. So when you have subjective in nature, that means that's a battle of experts. And you have circumstantial evidence. This is not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's circumstantial. And the defense has already put out feelers in the community. Is there anybody that has tips? So they have a tip line, and they're vetting those tips. They're trying to get tips on who may have actually committed this crime. Because this guy, he went in and talked to the police and gave them all the information. He went in and Richard Allen's been talking to the police for 5 years. It took him 5 years to finally file charges on him. And that's after he went in and talked to him multiple times. This guy's, he's been completely cooperative with the police, and he has no criminal record. And no criminal record, and been cooperative with the police. Go in there and talk to them and talk to them and talk to them and talk to them and talk to them. The only time he stopped talking to them was when they filed charges on him. Now he's not talking to them, but he's been talking to these police, and they waited 5 years to file the charges.
Right. And for those just tuning in, we're looking at this case from purely the defensive side, as if this was Mr. Glenn Graham's own client. So that's what I wanted to bring forth, something new, because everybody else is all just, you know.
Here in Tulsa County, we had one of the largest verdicts for a guy that was cleared of DNA evidence. It was like over $13 million. He did over 30 years in prison based upon misidentification. Well, I think it was more than 20 years. He did more than 20 years in prison based upon a victim who said it was him, and then DNA evidence come back, showed it wasn't him. He went to trial 3 times because he wouldn't plead guilty. They got hung jurors the first time, and then the third time they finally convicted him. Then he went off and did 20 years in prison. Then DNA evidence comes back and says it wasn't him. The Tulsa County paid over $13 million to this guy. And the victim, she said it was an honest mistake. She thought it was him, but the DNA evidence showed it wasn't. And she apologized to him. But you know, it didn't do no good. He did all that time in prison, and the DNA evidence come back, showed it wasn't him. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this I'm turning on something real quick here. Go, you can keep going. I'm just turning a setting on here.
There's been a bunch of cases here in Oklahoma where DNA evidence has cleared people, you know, and that's a miscarriage of justice. You know, jurors are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt the guy did it because the victim gets up and IDs them. Then the DNA evidence comes back, says it wasn't him. This Richard Allen guy, he's either a complete idiot or a terrific con artist. He went and talked to the police for 5 years. He's been shooting his mouth off, going in and talking to the police every chance he gets, saying, I didn't do it, but I'll help you in any way I can. Yeah, I have firearms. Oh, you want my firearm? Here it is. Oh, you want my clothes? Here then they are too. Here's my clothes. Check them out for DNA. Here's the firearm. Check it for DNA. You know, so, you know, this guy's he's either a complete con artist or a complete idiot. And he's been talking to the police for 5 years, shooting his mouth off.
Hey, are you able to access the private chat, or do I need to text you on your phone?
I will go to it right now. Okay. Looking at that chat. Oh, pushed it. Comments, is it?
It should be down. It says private chat.
Oh, okay. I'm at. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. 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 I guess I read it now. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Okay. All right. So hang on. Let's see. See, I just want to clean up chat a little bit here. Appreciate it. People, you know how to email me instead. I do have my email open.
I would like to tell people one thing. If you're ever accused of a crime, the first thing you do is contact a lawyer. The first thing a lawyer is going to tell you to do is shut up. Take the Fifth Amendment. Whether you're guilty or innocent, it doesn't matter. You should just take the Fifth Amendment and say, well, my lawyer tells me to take the Fifth Amendment. Upon the advice of counsel, I take the Fifth Amendment. That's how Martha Stewart got in trouble. She got in trouble by talking to the feds. And if you just give a false statement to the feds, and if you make more than one statement over a period of time, you're liable to contradict yourself. They didn't convict her of the underlying offense. They convicted her of giving a false statement because she kept talking to the feds. And each time she talked to them, she gave them a different statement. And so they convicted her of giving a false statement. They couldn't prove she committed the underlying offense. But basically, by continuing to talk to them, she basically enabled them to file charges on her for giving a false statement. So what I'm trying to tell you is you really shouldn't be talking to the police. You should hire a lawyer or at least take the Fifth Amendment. Any lawyer is going to tell you, upon the advice of counsel, I take the Fifth Amendment. I have nothing to say. Well, the first thing you want to do is ask for a lawyer on any case. I don't think this Richard Allen guy would have even been charged if he kept his mouth shut, even whether he's guilty or innocent. It did him no good to talk to the police. All they're doing is gathering evidence and going to file charges. They wait 5 years and file charges on you. And Martha Stewart, only mistake she made was continue to talk to them. Then they filed charges of giving a false statement. Because if you're going to contradict yourself over a period of 5 years, there's a good chance you're going to give a contradictory statement.
Yep. There's actually a YouTube channel. I don't know the name of it, but you can find it by just typing in Shut the F Up Friday, and they're hilarious. Have you seen those guys?
Yeah, I've heard of similar.
Yeah, Shut the F Up Fridays. And they put out a lot of criminal defense information.
Well, I've advised a lot of people over the years that it's the easiest answer is that upon the advice of counsel, I have nothing to say. I invoke the Fifth Amendment. And that shuts it down right there, because as soon as you invoke your right to counsel, they're not supposed to question you anymore. And you take the Fifth Amendment, they really can't hold it against you. They can try, but what are they going to put down? He invoked the Fifth Amendment and asked for his right to counsel. Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, people don't understand that. They think, oh, it's going to be okay if I just go talk to them on my own. Hey, take my DNA, take my whatever, I have nothing to hide. They have that kind of attitude about it, and it ends up biting them in the butt later. I'm following another case, and that's the 4 murders in Idaho. And oh my gosh, it's awful. But there's a neighbor who has done quite a few interviews, and I don't find anything suspicious about him at all. But he willingly, without even being asked or anything, went into the police station and offered his DNA just to clear himself. And a lot of people are like, why? Why would you do that? You know? But quite interesting. Okay, so there's that part of, as it says right there, you know, he voluntarily came to the police post on October 26th. Oh, that was 2022. I needed to go back on the timeline. I've got a really cool website that I found that's got the full timeline on it. Let me wait for that to load. Okay, this thing is really cool. This website, and I don't know if you have ever referred to this website, but if not, bookmark it. It's got so much really great information about cases in general. And everybody else, I'll have this link down in the description or comment something later, because this website is really, really neat. And it's called Actus Reus, which you can tell what that is, right? Can you explain what Actus Reus means? Kind of like mens res, but actus reus.
I'm sorry, Debbie, I'm not sure.
It says, let me see. Oh, come on, Glenn. There's there's mens res and actus reus. Think. Don't make me roast you.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
It's probably Latin and means the act's wrong in itself.
Correct. Yep. It's the act that causes the crime. Okay. The actual act. Okay. So but I guess that's why they named this website that. Because that's what they cover. They cover the acts, the actual details of the crimes, which I find very, very interesting. So this is on Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Let's see. They decided to have a sleepover at Liberty's house. They didn't have school the next day. There was no school on Monday. So they do their typical sleepover activities. And let me check that notification real quick. Okay. I have to keep StreamYard up so I can keep an eye on everything. Okay, so they do their typical sleepover activities, and Liberty's older sister joins in. Everything's great. But on Monday is when, you know, it all went down. So they slept in, they got up around 10, and they decided to go for a walk. Now, this map is really, really cool. It shows where everything was, this is a really good map. I know it doesn't look like much, but it shows the points of interest. Like this is where he would have parked right here. That's where he said he parked. Actually, he said he parked, I think it's right here. Hold on just a second. The bridge. Nope. That wasn't it. The bridge. I'm going to bring this up. So here is, see, he claimed that he parked here and walked here, walked around a little bit, and then went back. Walked down here to the bridge and watched fish for a little while and then left. When in fact, he parked here, came down. The girls were dropped off right here, and then he met them right there and ordered them down the hill. And they ended up over here, I believe, is that the Ron's property. Right here is the general crime scene area. And then he just walked right out to the road or wherever he went, because this is all forest here. He could have gone right here and kept in forest almost all the way back to his car. He could have been undercover. This is forest and this is forest. So I'm not surprised that nobody saw him out there after that time. But there's timelines on here all the way down. So if anybody wants to pull this up, they can, look through the whole thing. It's really, really good. Let me pull up this other thing over here. This person did, well, I'm going to do that one. Hang on. I want to bring this up just because it's just something I ran into. Have you ever seen this website, Glenn? This is really cool for people that are into true crime. Everybody should check this out. It's a really neat place in Tennessee, so it's not too far of a drive for most people. And they have so many crime artifacts there. They have Ted Bundy's car. They actually have O.J. Simpson's Bronco. They showed a lot of stuff in there, but all these artifacts and kind of creepy souvenirs from crime scenes and crime locations that are just like, wow. I mean, look at this. Let me pull up just the photo. I mean, it's a museum of crime, y'all. It's crazy. And they have so many. I want to go here. I want to go check that out. That looks like, oddly enough, fun. But it's called the Alcatraz East. And I totally want to go check that out. So I bookmarked that, and I thought I'd show that to you and see what you thought of that too. Isn't that neat? All about crime. All right, so hang on. Okay, that's not. Great. Okay. So here's somebody else. Hoosier has a really good website on YouTube. They have a really good channel. And they also said the same thing that you did. The interpretation of identification is subjective in nature. Rules of evidence do not apply to a probable cause affidavit. Yes, they have more evidence, but generally the PCA demonstrates your strongest evidence or your best evidence. I've seen a lot of people say on YouTube, on interviews, that they only put out the bare minimum just to get the arrest, and that they would be, coming back and putting out more evidence. Do you think that that's true, or do you think that they put out the best that they had? And no, Martin, no, he hasn't spoken to the police for the last 5 years. All of his information was there, freely given, and they just never did anything with it for 5.5 years. So yeah, you had said that.
I can't hear you, Debbie. I don't know if the audience can.
Can you guys hear me in chat?
Debbie, I can't hear you right now.
Okay, it's just you. It's you.
I can't hear you right now, Debbie. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. So I'll log out.
So he's going to come back in. And you guys, please bear with us. This is his first time doing any kind of online anything. So, all right. All right. Is that better?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. All righty. All right. So I was asking you, it says here, generally the PCA demonstrates your strongest evidence. I've heard a lot of people say that they really only release the bare minimum to get the arrest warrant. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that, like this says, the PCA really should be demonstrating the best that you have? How does that typically go?
They're trying to, normally on the PCA affidavit, they're trying to introduce the strongest evidence they can to be as persuasive as they can. So the strongest evidence they usually put in the affidavit.
That's what I thought. And I've been seeing a whole lot saying quite differently that they've only put the bare minimum in this PCA, that they have a whole lot that we just don't know about that shows that he's guilty. And I don't believe that. Just based on from the time that I worked at that law firm downtown, I helped with a lot of this stuff, and I heard it a million times, that the probable cause affidavit is always your best evidence.
Right.
That's not what I'm seeing being talked about on YouTube. And it's just like, oh, you guys, I don't think you get it. I think this dude's going to walk on this because there's not enough there. Even if, like, the bullet is, as you know, kids, when they're out walking, especially in the woods, if they see something shiny, something cool, what are they going to do?
Right.
They're going to pick it up.
They'll pick it up. Right.
So those girls, he said that he had his weapon on him and had gone for walks out there before. It is entirely plausible and will be plausible to a jury, in my opinion, that his defense is already saying, or he's already said, hey, they must have picked it up somewhere else and been carrying it with them. I don't think that it's just not enough. I don't know how they're going to connect him to the crime, and they've got to be able to do that. And they only have this one chance, because if he walks on this, they're never going to be able to charge him again, right?
Right.
Double jeopardy. Can you explain double jeopardy for us?
Right. Well, double jeopardy, if you go to jury trial and you're accused of a crime and you go to jury trial and you're acquitted, found not guilty, then double jeopardy is invoked and they can't retry the case. That's constitutional by the and due process, but by the Constitution, both state and federal. Double jeopardy, you only go to trial once. The only way they could do that is if they had some new evidence that was not capable of being discovered prior to the trial. But if it's just evidence that was there and they didn't do their job, double jeopardy is invoked, and they only get one chance. The case is over. And so that may have been one of the reasons they waited, is they had a weak case and they were trying to gather more evidence. And so that may have been another explanation why they waited 5 years to file charges.
Oh, I'm muted. I muted myself while I muted
Okay.
myself when you were speaking, and then you dropped yourself off, and I forgot I was muted. Okay. So thank you guys. Yeah, don't worry about anybody else streaming me. I don't care. I don't give garbage any of my attention. I'm just documenting it. I've already got the URL and sending it over to somebody. So they can keep violating rules. I have somebody, Glenn, by the way, who keeps streaming me content on their own channel, which is ridiculous. But so all I do is get the information off of the stream and send it over. That's pretty pathetic. But anyway, let's see. All right, so I wanted to show you guys a couple things here. This is the new gag order that the judge put in place. I wish, where's closed caption? And turn up the volume.
Say that Allen was arrested 2 weeks before the sheriff's election and on the heels of a federal lawsuit against the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. We start our team coverage tonight with IT-Mate's Richard Essex.
Was Richard Allen's arrest politically motivated? His lawyers are making a case that the timing of his arrest is suspicious. Richard Allen spoke to a conservation officer.
So this is the scene at the time. This is another question that I have for you about the Delphi. This bridge that was here, they're actually disassembling it right now, and they're renovating it, putting in like a new bridge structure there. So Glenn, I know normally in cases, especially since you specialize in criminal defense, would you want to take the jury out there to that location? And what does it mean to the case that they're completely changing the crime scene before trial begins?
Right. Well, that will affect the way that the case proceeds, because a judge may shut down defense requests to have the jury visit the crime scene. The judge may shut that down, saying that the scene is no longer present the way that it was before, and so there'll be some lost evidence and circumstantial evidence there that won't be available. So it affects the way the case will proceed. Just gives the defense another argument.
Okay, what's the argument going to be? Do you think that they've started? They didn't start renovating until after his arrest, which is weird. You would think that if there was something that they were planning to do there, somebody would have said, stop, we need to leave this in place in case the jury wants to come down here in person, because I know normally that is very, very much a thing that they do. And
I think they call it spoliation of evidence, or it's where the state takes some action to eliminate evidence in the case. They call it spoliation of evidence, and it's a violation of due process. And so that's going to be another defense argument, is that the state intentionally spoiled the evidence by neglect, just by negligence, extreme negligence. And it's a violation of due process.
Do you think that it will help him as far as getting acquitted on this?
It's a combination of errors that stack upon each other. So it may not be just one error. It may be a combination. That'll be an error. There'll be another error and another error and another error. And once you stack errors, and you have a whole bunch of errors that occur in the case, it's cumulative, and it's a circumstantial case anyway. You don't have an airtight case. It's circumstantial evidence, and then you have an accumulation of errors that could make a difference. Also, from a juror's perspective, that may affect the way they view the case. Is that you have just a circumstantial case, and then you have a bunch of errors in the case, then that it all gets washed out, and something that affects the way they view it.
Yep, I agree. All right, so I'm going to, now here's the judge just entered a new gag order.
A few days after Abby and Libby were murdered in February of 2017. 5 years later and 2 weeks before a hotly contested sheriff's election,
Now, Glenn, do you ever see cases that are politically motivated? Do you think that this is real that he's talking about right now?
Yes, that's always possible that there could be some political motivations. They're usually not open and obvious. Usually it's more subtle than that. But prosecutors are elected, and they stand for election, and they can be voted out of office or they can be reelected, and so they're subject to pressure, political pressure, and a lot of that's just a matter of doing their job too, though. So some people could complain if the prosecutor is not aggressive enough. And so, like, I know of a case where one time, or I know of circumstances where sometimes the prosecutor will be criticized for not being aggressive enough, but he's doing his job by weeding out cases that where they could not prove it. And like you were talking about, you have double jeopardy, where if they file the charge, then they lose their chance to come back later and prosecute because they were premature filing the case when they hadn't gathered all the evidence. So prosecutor has to make a decision there about what's best for justice, and not just about whether or not he gets reelected. And sometimes from a justice standpoint, he's better off waiting until he has a case that's winnable, where he has enough evidence in the case, rather than filing the case prematurely. Double jeopardy kicks in and the guy gets acquitted because the prosecutor felt pressure to file the case, but then he couldn't prove the case because he hadn't gathered enough evidence. So there's political pressure there, but the answer is always to do what's just. Justice has to triumph everything, but you also have to do your job. You have to be smart about it. You want to file cases you can win, and you want to have enough evidence to win the case, because otherwise double jeopardy kicks in and you've lost the chance to make the case.
And somebody in chat just asked you a question. Hang on. Martin Smallwood wants to know from you, did Glenn Allen say to the girls, guys down the hill? Have you listened to that video at all? I know that I only brought you on for purposes of the PCA, but I have the video here. We can listen to it.
Okay.
I think personally, he said, I'm going to start right about here. I personally heard something a little different. We'll come back to this news thing in just a minute. So this is on Bedtime Crime Stories.
A wild, emotional ride.
This was her last photo, and that's Maddie. Libby took this photo of her. So this is where they were on the bridge, and I don't know if he was in this area at the time or if he was on the other end of the bridge. I'm going to skip forward a little bit here. I know some people went out there and walked around. It was very, very sad. Let's see. There's him. I'm looking for because I think the video is on this one. Come on. If it's not, I'll check her channel real quick. Nope. All right, hang on. Bear with me. Let me look. I thought it was on this video. I was pretty sure it was on this one. I can just go like this. And that's the video, and I'm looking for the audio. I love how we're never on the same one, in the same video, you know? Ah. Okay, here's an inside edition. They had it. Sorry.
America is a nation of detectives today, trying to identify the suspect in this photo and this voice. The grainy image and that haunting audio were recorded by 14-year-old Liberty German on her cell phone. She also shot this last photo of her best friend, 13-year-old Abigail Williams. Abigail and Liberty were found murdered near this creek on a hiking trail in Indiana on Valentine's Day. We played the audio for...
You saw how steep that was, right?
Right.
They were way, I mean, they started up here and they were ordered down this hill. Their clothes were found on, I think, the other side of the creek down, you know, one way or the other. I can't tell from this footage, but I mean, that's steep. And he apparently caught them right at the end of the bridge because they were trying to get away. And I know I've heard from another source. I think I've got it now, Martin. We're going to listen to it again. This one doesn't have the guys on it either.
We play the audio for people in Delphi, Indiana. Population just 3,000.
Somebody knows this voice. Somebody has to know who this guy is. We are begging you to come up and to come forward.
The release of the audio has triggered more than 8,000 tips. Citizen sleuths, including Nancy Grace, are offering their theories about the killer.
We hear that muffled down the hill, down the hill. Why was it muffled? Because I think she put it in her pocket.
Stephen Fabian followed the final footsteps of the killer and his victims down the hill.
This is the bridge that we've all seen in the images released to the media. You can see now some flowers left behind in memory of the girls. We do know that the girls were found on this side of the creek, about a quarter of the mile in this direction. So when we're hearing down the hill on that recording, they could have been led in this direction, down this hill. And once you start going down the hill, you can sort of see all the different paths that they maybe were forced to go down. You could I don't think this is the first.
Okay. Let's see if they played the audio again.
This picture because
America is a nation of detectives today, trying to identify the suspect in this photo and this voice.
I know since then, let me see how old that one was. This was 5 years ago. Since then, they actually released more of it where you could hear him saying guys as well, in my opinion. Well, that's pretty. Says, Sheriff Tobe could not run for sheriff, or Tobe could not run for sheriff because of the law already served, times allowed. Oh, okay. My goodness, the perspective there is just, that's terrifying.
Like many of you, I have followed the 2017 murders of Abby Williams and Liberty German from Delphi in Indiana. I became very interested, a little bit excited, when I received news that a 50-year-old man had been arrested.
I don't want to play too much of her content here. I want to get to the voice.
And having looked at the times, the dates, etc., and a series of...
I definitely want to come back and watch this, though. This is incredible footage of the area. Really? That makes no sense. The title indicated that it
photographs and
didn't have the audio.
videos. They appear to have gone together, and they feature together. It's the same.
Where's the word truck coming up?
Ah, okay, okay.
Snap.
This is a little bit of his audio that I've seen this, so you can hear his voice, and then I guess she compares it to the bridge guy. That's what they call him.
It's not gonna snap.
Now, in my opinion, I think they should have cut her out of this, the poor wife, because that was his wife in this. I wouldn't have included her voice, in my opinion. Is Richard Allen the guy on the bridge? I don't know. I haven't seen anything that convinces me 1,000%. But I think he probably is. We're going over how he can actually walk on this charge, and it's terrifying to think of that. But I guess you can hear his voice right here. I was just saying that we want to compare the two voices, and I'm really careful, Lynn. I only play the portions that I need, and I always give credit.
Where's the word truck coming up?
What?
You can hear the tone in his voice. So now I'm going to skip forward and go to the bridge. Do you think that sounds like him, Glenn?
I'm not sure.
As a defense attorney, how would you respond to that kind of comparison? I'm going to play it again. What do you think?
Well, to send somebody away to prison, you've got to be certainty beyond a reasonable doubt. If you're not certain beyond a reasonable doubt, then you can't guess somebody into prison. Especially we'll say pretend they can sue you for $1 million. Well, you don't want to be making a mistake about something like that. And so if it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't think that it's going to be sufficient. And I don't think that's beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right, so this is, let me see who this channel is here. AF Pennington presents True Crime Weekly. So I'm going to play her trailer. All right, so I just subscribed to her channel. I didn't want to play the whole trailer so that you guys can have an opportunity to come check it out yourselves. And I will put her link down in the description since I used a tiny portion. It's not like her content, the videos, but it's her work putting them together. So you always want to give credit. And she did, it looks like it's a long, really good video. I'm definitely going to come back after we're done and go check out the whole thing. Let's see. Also, people say that Reddit is not a good source, but if you go to Reddit and just type in Delphi murders, tons of information on this case. Excuse me, hiccup. So definitely I keep an eye on this page alone, and I've gotten a lot of good information. You just have to be really careful that you're not believing rumors, but there's some really good, there's accurate information on there. I get a lot of my stuff from Twitter as well. There's a couple of very reputable news people that I personally like that puts out really good stuff. Let me see if there's anything else. We were watching this. We're going to go back to that now. Let me move this over here. I always save all my links that I use so that I can make sure to put them all down in the description. So we're watching this on the Gag Order.
Its former second in command, Michael Thomas. In the federal lawsuit, Michael Thomas accuses the current Carroll County Sheriff, Toby Lazenby, of violating his constitutional rights to free speech and due process. He claims that Lazenby did not approve of Thomas running for sheriff, in part because Thomas had made suggestions and offered assistance in the investigation of a high-profile child homicide investigation, which were overruled and which Lazenby and others in the Carroll County Sheriff's Office feared would become publicized as a result of the campaign and/or Thomas's potential election. Thomas lost his bid for the sheriff's office in the Republican May primary. Following his election, he was assigned to the Animal Control Office. Essentially, he became the county dog catcher. Allen's attorney cited in their statement Thomas further claimed that the sheriff and others in the department feared that the disagreements with Thomas would become publicized as a result of the political campaign for sheriff. Thomas's attorney said IT made a statement that says, although we understand and appreciate the significance of the Delphi child homicide matter, Mr. Thomas's allegations relating to this investigation constitute only one component of the broader scope of his complaint. On the day police announced Richard Allen's arrest for the 2017 murders of Abby Williams and Libby German, I asked Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter if the timing of Allen's arrest is tied to the sheriff's election.
They felt it was political since the election's next week and the sheriff's up for re-election.
That's shameful.
All right, so I'm going to stop there. I'll put this link as well. There. Okay. Hang on, let me copy it. Okay. All right, so I think we went over this one on Twitter. I like this. If you're on Twitter, Glenn, you should follow this person. It's Hoosier Public Defender. Really good stuff on there. I totally should have gotten into law because I just love even the boring stuff doesn't bother me. I love learning about law. Okay, so I want to get in. Okay, so there's the timeline. Somebody in chat said the three witnesses, Martin says the three witnesses said the man they met on the bridge, on the trail was a bridge guy, and Richard said he met the witnesses on the trail. I don't know. Going by the PCA, they kind of tie them together, as if they're one and the same person. Three of the witnesses described him as wearing all black, and the other one or two of them said matched his clothes pretty well. I think they said light-colored pants and a black jacket with a hoodie, things like that. It's in the PCA, but a couple of them were very dead on. But then, like you said, he admitted that he was there. So what if he was seen, But it is scary to think that, he could be the one. I don't know, but it's just the things that I see in the PCA really scare me. And I have seen other defense attorneys, their own personal YouTubes talking about this as well. But for the majority of people just think, well, it's just cut and dry. It's going to be a conviction. And I'm not so sure. I hope they have some really great hard evidence. It was at 2:07. Let's see. They were dropped off at 1:40. And that's when he arrived. There's the bridge. Oh, wow. Liberty took that photo. I hate that I can't just hover over it. I don't want to click on it. And then Libby also uploads this photo of Abby. I'm not going to go to their Snapchats. Then there's the video. Now, they know on her phone what time the video was and all that, but they haven't told us. Or if they didn't, it might be in the PCA, but yeah, I think so too, Martin. I'm scared. Here's the audio. What are his actual charges? Dude, I don't even know anymore because they closed everything off with a gag order. I can't get into the case anymore. I don't know. I know it was, I think 2 counts of murder, but let me see. Hold on. Is it going to have, it's not going to have any kind of the charging information in the probable cause affidavit, will it?
No.
Okay. I don't know if you've seen this. I think I emailed this to you. I'm looking for the actual warrant. he wrote that handwritten letter to the court that I thought was very interesting, saying, basically, I'm innocent and I'm broke, Your Honor. Help me. I never downloaded his charging documents, so I don't have them, but I believe it was just, 2 counts of felony murder, like Lynn just said. Thank you, Lynn. So let's see. Bear with me. What's this? Okay, this is a press release. Hang on. All right, so let me look at this. That's page. Bear with me, I'm trying to get this thing to enlarge for me. Okay, yeah. I think they did a good job as defense attorneys on this, don't you? Have you read this press release? I'm going to scroll down.
No.
Okay, so this is where we see that he actually, I'm going to read this because I find this very interesting. This is something that people are not aware of at all. The first part's just Rick is a 50-year-old man who's never been arrested nor accused of any crime in his entire life. They say he is innocent and completely confused as to why he's been charged with these crimes. And then the interesting parts, these 2 paragraphs. The police did not contact Rick and Libby German, and Adam did not contact. Hold on. Let me start over. The police did not contact Rick after Libby German and Abby Williams went missing. Rather, Rick contacted the police and voluntarily discussed being on the trail that day. Like many people in Delphi, Rick wanted to help any way he could. Rick contacted the police to let them know he had walked on the trail that day, as he often did. Without Rick coming forward, the police probably would not have had any way of knowing that he was on the trail that day. And then this is the part that people did not know about until recently. Rick volunteered to meet with a conservation officer outside the local grocery store to offer up details of his trip to the trail on the day in question. This meeting that he had, he didn't go into the police department. He just had somebody meet him at the grocery store and they chatted in the parking lot. So Rick tried to assist the investigation and told the police that he did recall seeing 3 younger girls on the trail that day. His contact with the girls was brief and of little significance. Rick does not recall if this interaction with the conservation officer was tape recorded, but believes the conservation officer scribbled notes on a notepad as Rick spoke to him. Now, as a criminal defense attorney, what do you think about that? He didn't even bring him into the police station. And what do you think about the notes?
That's very interesting. I think it all shows that maybe it would be an argument for a defense, that he's acting like an innocent person. He's doing what an innocent person would do, which is cooperate and go in voluntarily, give them information and tell them everything that he knows. That's consistent with what an innocent person would do. And
yeah, and we're not saying that he is innocent or guilty. Just that's the
defense argument. Yeah. That's what the defense the defense attorneys will argue.
Yep. I mean, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, yeah, I was there. Here's what I've seen. When I was out there, my goodness, of course I would go in and tell him everything that I could possibly tell him. And then page 2. After he shared that information in that parking lot with that person, he went back to his life. He went back to work, the same job that he's had the whole time. He never moved. He never changed his phone number. And he never heard from the police until October 2022. They never contacted him again after that interview. That's weird. I mean, I have no idea if it's politically motivated or not. To me, I'm not really considering that too much. I think the defense attorney is going to have a field day with this one. Even in the 5 years since Rick volunteered to provide information to the police, he did not get rid of his vehicle or his gun and didn't even throw away the clothing. He did not alter his appearance, nor did he relocate himself to another community. He did what any innocent man would do and continued with his normal routine. What do you think of that?
That's all defense argument, very consistent with the argument that they're going to be making.
And then Martin says because he knew he was at the scene of a crime, and that's why he came forward. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to, want to get away with it, just where is the best place to hide? Out in the open. He may have had that kind of intention, to deliberately just act like he didn't do anything wrong and see if they figured it out. He could be that brazen. He could be that narcissistic. The probable cause affidavit seems to suggest that a single magic bullet is proof of Rick's guilt. It is a bit premature to engage in any detailed discussions regarding the veracity of this evidence until more discovery is received. But it is safe to say that the discipline of tool mark identification or ballistics is anything but a science. The entire discipline has been under attack in courtrooms across this country as being unreliable and lacking any scientific validity. We anticipate a rigorous legal and factual challenge to any claims by the prosecution as to the reliability of its conclusions concerning the single magic bullet. And that's what I was talking about with the PCA. That they're going to have, like you said, a battle between two witnesses.
The battle of the experts.
On Rick's behalf. Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. Battle of the experts. On Rick's behalf, we argued to have the PCA unsealed. Rick has nothing to hide. As importantly, we were hoping that we would receive tips that would assist us in proving up his innocence. Not surprisingly, we have been inundated with tips from a variety of sources, all of which will be vetted by our team. Although it is the burden of the prosecution to prove Rick's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I think it said his, our defense team, not sure which word was there, looks forward to conducting its own investigation concerning Rick's innocence. We appreciate those who've reached out to support his cause. Okay, this is a big one here. I don't know if you've ever had this happen in any of your cases, but it says that the prosecution mentioned at the last hearing his belief that others may have been involved in the killing, yet there's no mention in the PCA about a second suspect involved in the killing. The defense is confused by such discrepancies in the investigation and will be in a better position to respond as more discovery is received. It says that he owned a Ford Focus in 2017. Now, without doxing myself too much, I have owned that vehicle around the same time, actually, and mine was, I think, 2016. I think his was as well. And I can tell you that the back of it is kind of like, mine was hatchback. And if you're seeing it from a distance, it could very well look like a smart car. It did look very cool. So I disagree with this portion, but, says that he owned a Ford Focus in February of 2017. His Ford Focus is not in any way similar to the distinctive look of the PT Cruiser or smart car that was described by the witnesses. And it says it seems like the Carroll County Sheriff's Department is trying to bend facts to fit their narrative. Could be, but I'm telling you, if you ask me, I could see a wreck, somebody could, whatever. I just see a car and I can tell you it's a red sports car or it's a red sedan, and I can tell you general stuff about a car, but I'm not going to be able to identify a particular vehicle anywhere that I see them. Unless it's a very obvious, I would definitely know if it was a PT Cruiser because, I've always played, Popeye with my kids, and what's the other game that you play? Punch. It's been a while since my 3-year-olds were grown. What is that game where you hit the driver in the shoulder when you see a PT Cruiser? Cruiser. Yeah, my kids would always do that to me. Cruiser. So I know what a PT Cruiser looks like. But so that's kind of weird. He didn't come forward. So Martin, you think he's kind of using reverse psychology then? Martin says if he didn't come forward, he would have looked very guilty. But would they have even ever known at all that it was him? I don't know.
A defense argument is going to be, the big one is going to be, what is the motive for this 50-year-old guy with no prior criminal record and it looks like no relationship to these people? What was the motive to do any of this? Where would there be any motive at all? And so it's a complete mystery as to what motivation would there be for any of this. He's apparently a happily married guy in his 50s, and so there's a complete absence of any motive.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we know if his marriage was happy, as you know.
Well, that's what the defense is going to argue.
Yeah. His wife, I need to look this up. I think his wife filed divorce pretty quickly. I'll look it up. Yeah. She was pretty freaked out by everything. And I think she filed divorce, but don't quote me on that. I think this is what I heard. I haven't seen it. But I think she did. I think she took the girl, her daughter, and took off. I think they still had a teenage girl at home at the time, or a very, very young adult. No prior motive. he had no charges in the past, no criminal history whatsoever. No, I mean, normally, wouldn't they have something in their background that would be a red flag, like a peeping Tom charge or exposure or something?
Right.
You think?
Usually. Yeah.
I mean, people don't just jump to murder, right?
Right.
So maybe they have found other cases and are, linking him with them now, But, all right, so let me get that off here. There's the audio. So I'm not sure who Derek is in this. So flannel shirt guy is a witness in the case. He didn't see Libby or Abby, and that was at 3:15. I don't see how you can be a witness to something that you didn't see. How is that possible? What are they going to do? Call him to the stand and say, hey, what did you see that day? Nothing. Okay, sir, thank you. I don't understand. They're calling him a key witness of some sort. I'll read that right here. It says, the man with the flannel shirt becomes a key witness in this case, and he is among the first to give a witness account to law enforcement. But he didn't see anything. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Them, realizing that something's up.
It occurs to me that a really smart killer, if he had a bullet from this guy's gun, he could have left it there at the scene to plant evidence to set this guy up. Somebody that actually committed the crime could easily leave a bullet there at the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This guy has no motive to do this.
Not that we know of, not that we know yet. I think, they'll probably be, still working on that.
It's been 5 years. After 5 years, at some point, somebody should have figured something out. With as much spying as goes on, surely they would have gone through his computer and his phone and all of those records that are stored forever. And the NSA has all that information. Seem like they could pull up that information, all of his email accounts, and they can look through all of his. They can find out what kind of a character he is.
Mm-hmm.
Is he looking at child pornography? Does he have some kind of background like that? They got access to his computer, his cell phone, his email, everything.
Yeah.
They've had 5 years to look at all that, figure out if he has a motive.
But they didn't really know about him. He didn't become actually known to the police till much later. That report that he gave at that grocery store, it was just kind of lost. They didn't really they didn't take it seriously, and it kind of got filed away and forgotten for years until I think this last year. Then his name came up in the case. Nobody's ever talked about him. He wasn't on a suspect list or anything. So I don't think they really even have a clue. But how can he be arrested and charged without a motive? do you have to know somebody's motive to arrest them, or can that come out later?
Well, it's a circumstantial case, and in most murder cases, generally, the vast majority of murder cases are usually there's some kind of motive: robbery, sex crime, robbery, or something. It's very unusual for somebody to just kill somebody for no reason at all.
Let's see. So Martin asked if one of the girls mentioned a gun. Yes, she did. That's on. They haven't released the whole 43-second video clip that she did. And then I think she put her phone in her pocket, like Nancy Grace said. And let's see. Richard did say guys down the hill and had a gun. Yeah. I heard the word guys in that. I mean, down the hill. Guys down the hill. I heard the word down, but that's just my opinion. When it's quoted somewhere, I only hear it say guys, comma, down the hill. I hear the word get. Guys, get down the hill. I don't know. I could be wrong. Let's see. But yes, at the end of it is when you can hear it and see it, but they haven't released that to the public. I don't know if they ever will. I don't really need to see that. But let me see if there's anything else. This just goes over the, extensive search all the way to the point that they find the girls. Really don't want to go over that because it's just too sad, and we've already gone over that. Hang on, I got a message over here. Okay. All right. So this is the probable cause affidavit again. The descriptions between them, they kind of match, but they kind of don't. I don't really make too much of that. I mean, it's going to be really hard when they get called to trial. They were, young teenagers at the time that they saw this guy, and I hope that they're not drilled, or treated badly. It's not their fault they saw something, Let's see.
Well, identification evidence is often the weakest evidence available. DNA often clears people that are misidentified. Your identification evidence is the weakest evidence. It is the most subjective and the least reliable of all evidence is identification evidence. DNA will often clear people that are falsely accused.
Right. But in this case, let's say that they found his DNA on the bullet. It's his bullet. Right. So I don't think that that's really going to have any effect one way or another with the battle of the witnesses or the battle of the experts. They're just the jury's just going to pick a side, and that'll be it.
I think if they had DNA on the bullet, they would have already announced that.
Yeah, probably so. Oh yeah, they would be comparing that DNA to his already,
right?
And announcing that. Yeah, I know they would be screaming that from the mountaintops for sure.
Yeah.
But well, is there anything else that you noticed in the PCA that you want to talk about?
Just it's all circumstantial, and I guess the DA was under a lot of pressure to go ahead and file the charge, but typically it's like a Martha Stewart thing. You go and ask the witness enough questions, eventually they'll contradict themselves, and you'll strengthen your case. So once he filed charges, he shut down the possibility of going and talking to the guy anymore or gathering any more evidence, because that's all shut down now. And if he'd held off on filing the charge and done some more investigation, typically people will they'll end up contradicting themselves or give you enough evidence that you make it an airtight case. And so I think there are some some pressure to file the charge, and I think they should have probably investigated this more. I think it's all circumstantial. The evidence is it's circumstantial, and they're taking a big chance on this bullet. And I think there'll definitely be a witness, an expert witness, that's going to contradict. That's the reason they say that it's subjective. The opinion on the bullet is subjective. It's not a bullet was discharged. It was a bullet that was ejected, an unspent bullet that was just ejected from the firearm. And I don't think that's as convincing as a discharged bullet. I think you're going to have contradictory experts on that. And it's just circumstantial. So,
yeah, I mean, I think if it was a fired bullet, if he had, because people are saying that he probably racked the gun or cocked the gun to scare them, right? Which is completely possible. But because I know if it's already loaded and you pull back on the chamber, it's going to pop out. But people are saying, well, how would he not see that happen, right? If he had it held low, you've seen photos of him, he's got that beer belly, he might not have even seen it. He might not have even seen it pop out. Or he could have been holding it at his side or something. We don't know. Right. If that's how it happened. Or, like I said, it could be planted there to make, it could have just been left there, I guess. I don't know why. That doesn't really ring true in my mind as I'm saying it. I tend to think that if he is innocent, then the girls probably did what mine always did and what a lot of kids always do, is just pick up something cool that they see on the ground, probably plan to take it home and show their parents, look what I found. And whoever it was saw, hey, there's this girl had a bullet in her hand. I'll leave that here. He left their phones. He didn't take the phones. And I find that kind of weird too. He left the phones with the girls. Man, I don't know why. He was probably afraid to touch them, DNA and whatever. But the whole case is so sad. These girls were so pretty. But anyway, if you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it on up.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night, okay?
Good night.
Good night. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. If you watch this on the replay, skip ahead about 10 minutes. And that's when we start, because we had some technical difficulties when we first started, but I'll go ahead and wrap it up. You guys have a good night, and I will see you next time. I'm going to be putting all of this into a video form with some other stuff that I didn't talk about with Glenn Graham, and I'll put his information in the description as well. I've known him forever, but he's very chill and laid back and at home, as you can see, but he's very well known, very, 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 very good attorney. So I appreciate him coming up. And I will talk to you guys later. Give me time to get all these links in the description. And you guys have a good night. And please don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Thank you, everybody.